Hello.
There we go. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really good. I'm actually in my car.
Oh,
I'm
great.
cruising the streets as we chat, which is utterly nuts.
I love it. And first of all, I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. I
You
actually
and
planned this to be today, so I would force you to say that to me. So you fell right into my trap. Thank you.
you're very welcome. And we are so excited to have you on today. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. And you and Angela Lansbury share today as your birthday.
Wait, do we really? Mrs. Potts
hmm
herself?
Yep.
Oh my
It's our
gosh.
95th birthday today, I believe.
Oh my gosh. I should send her some flowers or something. That's
Yes.
that's incredible. 95. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so how have you been these past 7 months as we've been sheltering in place during the pandemic?
Well, I've essentially been in New York the entire time, and
Mm.
being in New York has actually been great. I love the city, and it's been bizarre for sure
hmm
to see the other side of what New York is like when stuff isn't like bubbling and happening, and it's not like the center of the cultural universe that we kind of know it to be, at least
hmm
theatrically speaking. But at the same time, there's so many wonderfully creative things happening every day, and the big thing is, I was talking to a class yesterday and saying that we're just trying to stay creative, keep
Right. Yeah.
keep our creative juices flowing, and trying to just take care of ourselves and each other, and seeing as many friends as I can in a responsible, socially distanced way.
Of course. Yeah. Do you
Lots
have
of
any?
walktails.
Yes. Do you have any fun socially distanced plans for your birthday today?
I'm going to go get a massage,
Oh,
which is going to
great.
be really nice. But it's kind of a rainy day in New York today, and
Mm.
I'm going to go. I'm learning how to fly an airplane.
Wow. Okay.
That's kind of like been a lifelong goal of mine. I've always wanted to
Mhm.
do it, and my lovely girlfriend finally surprised me and said, "Hey, we're gonna learn. You're learning how to fly a plane,"
Wow.
and I'm freaking out about it. I'm
That's
freaking
amazing.
out about it.
Will this be your first time ever like behind like in the cockpit?
Behind the stick. Let's call
Yeah.
it the stick. Behind the stick. Yes, it will. It's one of those things that like I wanted to do since I was like a little kid. I've always said like if I wasn't like an actor or anything, I would have been an airline pilot. It's like it was like the 9-year-old dream in me that I wanted, and so it always kind of was something that was in the back of my mind that I always wanted to try, and now I'm
Mhm.
finally going to get a chance to do it. It's awesome.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Yeah,
That's like so much fun.
yeah. I think it'll be really great. I think it'll be fun.
Oh, that's awesome. And you mentioned that you're finding ways to be creative during this time. Well, what are some ways that you've been able to do that? It's been great talking to different artists during this time and seeing how people are able to give back to the community and just be
Yeah,
creative. And,
yeah.
yeah.
Honestly, there's been a lot of writing. There's been a lot of writing happening. And there's been I was a part of a project called A Killer Party, which was like
Mm.
a remotely a quarantine filmed murder mystery musical, which was nuts, and some really incredible people that I some of which I've had the pleasure of working with in real life, IRL,
Mhm.
and some of which not, but we all kind of came together apart, and were able to put together something that we, all felt like proud of, and were able to kind of put out there. And I just found out that it's been licensed, right? So
Oh,
Killer
wow.
Party is now, I know it's crazy. So I got an email from the guy who wrote it, my friend Jason Howland, with like this video clip of it being done in Korea. And what's really weird is seeing like what's my type in Korea.
Yeah.
Like what does my type look like? Who gets cast as my part in
Mhm.
Korea? And it's always such a funny thing to be like, oh, okay.
That's what it is.
That's
Yeah.
that's the version of me. That's the version of me in Seoul right now. It's just
So
amazing.
are they doing like a filmed project as well, or is it on stage, or what is
No,
the?
it's the same. They have filmed it in the same style that we filmed it.
Hmm.
But the COVID has hit Korea differently. So the shutdown there was not as whole and complete as ours was. It never really
Mhm.
had to be. So they had like super killer production value that they were able to add to their version of a killer party. So whereas ours was totally DIY, and
Right.
I'm like setting up a green screen in my living room, and Jeremy Jordan's setting one up like in his basement. They like actually could go to a sound studio
Oh
and like
wow.
make it happen. And so it's neat to see how it's going to kind of manifest itself everywhere, like all over the world, hopefully,
Yeah.
which is bizarre. We never thought that was going to be anything like that. I mean, it was very much like a friend, Jason, called and was like, "Hey man, this is going to take 2 weeks of your time, 2 weeks max." And I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh, neat." Like 3 months later, where he's emailing me like, "Listen, I really need you to send in this last couple of clips." We ended up having it was nuts. It was really a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, actually, I forgot to go ahead and introduce you here. For those of
Oh
you
God.
who are tuning in, we have Drew Gehling here today. And yeah, so Drew Gehling is currently, you can see him currently in A Killer Party, which is streaming through Vimeo. You can go to akillerpartymusical.com forward
Hey.
slash Broadway-SF. It was all filmed and created during quarantine here.
Hmm.
And Drew, you also originated the role of Dr. Palmer in the
I
Broadway
did.
production of Waitress. And your other Broadway productions include On a Clear Day You Can See Forever and Jersey Boys. And you were most recently here in San Francisco as Joe Bradley in Roman Holiday the Musical in 2017.
Roman Holiday. Yes, that's correct.
And also played Bob Gaudio in Jersey Boys here in San Francisco in 2007.
The Current Theater. That's right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love San Francisco. My girlfriend's from San Francisco,
Oh, awesome.
and I'm out there. I was just out there over the summer, right as the kind of the fires first started raging. So it's bizarre to see how San Francisco has kind of been faring during this crazy time as well. But I love San Francisco and can't wait to come back
Oh,
every
that's
time.
awesome. And yes, I'm wondering if you could and talk a little bit more about A Killer Party. We talked to Jared Spector a couple weeks ago, and yes, so how so you
Nice.
mentioned that you're that Jason Howland reached out to you and to start this project, and what was it like to be able to collaborate with your fellow creatives during this time and to work with a bunch of awesomely talented people and
Really, really bizarre
okay.
because it didn't feel as much like a collaboration all of the time
Mhm.
as most of us are used to. So as
Mhm.
opposed to, like a normal scene that you would play, like you and I, if we're having a scene like I'm talking and you hear what I say and you listen and you respond. I know this is like how human
Right.
beings talk.
Mhm.
But this was much more like, all right, it started off very much like Jessica Keenan Wynn and I would hop on a Zoom call or like a FaceTime, and we would say, "All right, how do you want to play the scene?" And we
Mhm.
would kind of run through it a couple of times, and then when we finally had a version of the scene in place that we wanted to do, we would kind of go to our separate corners and record it and kind of like either do it with her on the phone with me reading the other lines while my girlfriend filmed it, or Julia, my girlfriend, would read the lines and then kind of feed me the lines that I was supposed to say. So we were able to kind of grab it all piecemeal and then give it to editing, and they were able to put it together. I I don't know if anything's ever been done this way before. It was
Mhm.
super bizarre, especially since like as we were going through, we were just kind of like making it up as we went along, so we would be like, okay, well, this was effective last time, so let's stick with that. And once I had the green screen in my apartment, I just was like, all right, any excuse to stand in front of the green screen and do something there, then they would just kind of put it in.
Right.
Wait, Lauren, hey. No, I don't think it's the future of musicals. I think there's going to be like some element of theater that kind of does this for a while, and there's always going to be like movie musicals and televised musicals, and like that's just a completely different art form, but you can't replicate the live experience this way.
Right.
I mean, it's just not the same thing. It's there also, and in some cases you can get like killer production value, but at the end of the day, everyone shooting a frame like this, just kind of seeing faces, doesn't doesn't really do it in the way that I guess the live experience does. At least I hope it doesn't. And I think, if you talk to anybody that like has watched and experienced any of these like kinds of performances, it's not the same, obviously. The closest thing that I've really seen was my buddy Will Bloom did a version of Floyd Collins, or like an excerpt from Floyd
awesome.
Collins, and he did it in his apartment. And he built a cave out of cardboard boxes and shot himself like on his phone, like I'm holding it right now, and recorded the vocals live, and then kind of went back and dubbed in music over it, and it just killed. And it like was a way of experiencing like what was like a single shot done in such a creative way that you got to watch something happen in a. So everyone, as soon as you're done watching this, go and check out Will Bloom's Instagram, because he put it up on IGTV, and it is so freaking good. And it was directed by my buddy Austin Reagan and choreographed by his wife Kendall Hartsey, and it's just freaking nuts. So
that's great. I will definitely check it out after this.
Please do. Yeah.
And what was that like rehearsal process like? I know that you it was directed, A Killer Party was directed by Mark Bruni, who directed Holiday.
Yeah, Bruni. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the rehearsal process was great. I mean, it was like it was one of those first times that, because it happened relatively early in the quarantine, so it was one of those instances where all of us kind of got onto a massive Zoom call and did a table read of the musical. So it was like myself and Mig and Carol Lee and Jessica Keenan Wynn and Laura and Jared and Christina and Jackie, and we didn't have Jeremy because Jeremy wasn't in the first episode at this point. And then the producer Kevin Duda, our composers, and Jason, our book writer, Bruni, our killer director, and Sarah Oglibi, our choreographer. I didn't mean to make a pun there. That was really unintentional. I'm sorry about that. Oh, it was so stupid. So we kind of just got on, did a table read essentially of the thing, and then Bruni would kind of speak to each of us individually, and I would essentially give him like a tour of my house with my phone and say, hey man, okay, this is my kitchen, this is the bathroom, this is the bedroom, this is the entryway, this is my staircase. What do we,
what can we use?
What do you want to use? Yeah, what do you want to use? Like, what looks good? And he would, and it was up to Bruni to be like, all right, Jackie has a really great doorway, Drew has a really good hallway, let's use Drew's hallway for this part, and then we'll kind of, and then it was just about an orientation of where do you sit at the table, and who are you looking at when you're looking this way. And so we had like a diagram of where everybody was. I mean, it was pretty mechanical, and but in that way it was also I'd never done anything like that before, so it was really kind of neat to work on something where suddenly I have an enormous amount of respect now for crews, for like all like sound engineers, lighting engineers, like the directors of photography that work on all of these television shows that shoot here in New York. And I mean, the work that these people do is so difficult to replicate. And you forget that like all of that work is what makes you able to do your job. And if you're so busy kind of like making sure your costume looks good and doing your own makeup and kind of like, I mean, that's kind of just the world we're in right now. But I miss makeup. Never thought I'd say it, but
Well,
Yeah.
look, the final product looks fantastic. All the editors and everyone who worked on the project, it looks great and sounds
Yeah.
great as well. I know that the soundtrack is available to purchase. And what was that like? Did you have to set up like a little recording studio in your place?
Yeah, my closet is tricked out right now. It's fully tricked out. If anyone has questions about how to set up a home recording
Mm,
studio, I'm your man. Friday, I gotcha.
that's great.
It's relatively easy to do, and so much stuff is happening in your home studios right now that it's like that's the way to go. It's the way to go, and it's it's kind of very much the way of the future, and you learn a lot about being your own engineer when you do that stuff.
Yeah. Well, great. And yeah, if you haven't checked it out, if you're watching, it's at killerpartymusical.com, and it is fantastic. It's so much fun.
Cool.
And we have a question from one of the fans. And if you want to leave questions, you can leave them in the chat or in the question box.
Yeah, and if
Um,
I see one pop up that I can like jump and answer real quick, I'll. Oh, nice.
Perfect.
So we say favorite and least thing about out of town tryouts.
Yeah,
Ooh.
so you here in 2017, Roman Holiday the musical,
Yeah.
that was an out of town tryout, and you just did Almost Famous at the Old Globe, which
Yes.
I've heard nothing but fantastic things.
Oh, good.
And yeah, you also recently did Dave at Arena Stage, so you've done a couple of these out of town tryouts. And so what do you enjoy most about the experience and about
The
all these
best,
experiences?
yeah, totally. The best thing about doing an out of town tryout is kind of the safety that you're given by not being in New York City. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like by not being in the throes of the city itself, it kind of gives you the freedom to try stuff that may or may not work and not have the pressure be to get it right the first try. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because like I mean our first run through of Almost Famous in front of an audience was like 3 hours, you know? And like
Mhm.
that's just too long.
Yeah.
That's just longer than a musical should be. Even the good ones, even the really big ones, you know what I mean? But we never would have known that was like what we needed and what we didn't, unless we had opened it out of town, tried to like kind of work and see what things the audience were responding to when we had them and we didn't have them, and then we could kind of like let stuff go if it didn't need to be there, and add stuff in if we felt that we were missing something. And you
Mhm.
can't do that when you're opening cold in New York. You just can't, because people come to that first preview and some people are forgiving about previews, but most are not. Like most
Mhm.
are of the mindset that, hey, I'm seeing a Broadway show, I expect to see the finished and completed product. And
Yeah.
when you work on it out of town, you get to have, you get a little bit of wiggle room there. We had the same thing with Roman Holiday in San Francisco. It was great to be in in a really really large theater. We were at the Golden Gate, and like
Mhm.
we were able to, and we had a really 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 great, the San Francisco audience with that BroadwaySF like has is spectacular. They're super smart. They are very, and they're I mean, and the way in which they respond to work is a really good indicator of the New York theater audience as well. So you're
Mhm.
kind of trying to replicate that without doing it in town, and like it was and that was great to do in San Fran as well. Like the downside is that you're away from home. It's
Mhm.
hard to kind of like uproot your life for several months and put everything into this pressure cooker that is working on something out of town. That's tough. You
Yeah.
know, nobody likes to not sleep in their own bed for extended periods of time. But when you're working on a show, you might as well be out of town, because I always say you lose like 5 years off your life working on a new show. So because they're so stressful. But the great thing about you can only hope that you're going to a place that is lovely. And in the case of like San Francisco and San Diego and DC, like I've been very lucky to be in places that were fun to be, regardless of the actual theater space you were in.
Right. That's great. And so speaking of these productions that you've been involved with, including Waitress as well, these are musical productions that have been adapted from movies. And so, what's your relationship to these films when you're creating these characters for the stage? Are you watching the movies? Are you just going off of what's in the text, or how do you create a character of your own?
Yeah, it depends. Like in a lot of cases, if it depends on how close you are to the source material. Like with Almost Famous, having Cameron Crowe in the room with us all the
Mm,
time, he knows those characters so well, not just because he wrote and directed the film, but because he lived it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So you'd be able to kind of say, "Hey, Cameron, like, what's going on here?" And he'd be like, "Oh, see, I wrote this scene because this happened when I was on tour with the Eagles,
Mm,
and Donna Henley said this, and then Glenn Frey said this. So I kind of felt like that was a really interesting dynamic, and so this character kind of embodies that, and that character kind of embodies that, and you're like, oh, so in this scene, I'm Glenn Frey. That's crazy. All right, nice,
yeah.
thank you. Um, so so in that case, Almost Famous is like a lot of people's favorite thing, and myself included. I love the movie. It's awesome. So to get to approach that from an actor's perspective is tons of fun, and you want to do it justice, but then you don't want to be married to the film version of the thing. So I try to like avoid that as much as I can, and also kind of trust that I know the film and the story well enough to know when the audience is expecting a very specific thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, then, like in the case of Waitress, I only saw the film once and then never really watched it again because I didn't want the film version of what we were doing to kind of bleed into the stage version because they were totally different things.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody just asked what was the first show that I saw that inspired me to work in the entertainment industry. I was obsessed with Rent when I was a kid. I was like,
Mm,
dude, I was into Rent.
a big red.
Rent. Oh my God. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it was nuts. And then, but before that, I'd seen like Les Mis on tour. That was kind of like my like if we were gonna get in the car, I was like bopping to One Day
Yeah.
More in the back
Yeah.
seat as my mom's driving and also singing along. But like Rent would have been like one of the first things that I bought myself. But the actual first cast album that I
Mm.
like went to the store and purchased myself with my own money was Titanic.
Oh, okay.
I
It's a deep
love me
cut.
some Maury Aston. Yeah, I know, but not really. I mean, it won the Tony,
Right,
but
right, right.
but I love a Maury Aston musical. So, bam.
That's great. Um, and so I guess so going back to Roman Holiday. Um, I know that. What did you enjoy most about that production? About like being able to work on that.
Honestly, the people that I was doing the show with,
Mm-hmm.
the cast of that show was like stupid good. I mean,
Yeah,
between Jared Spector and Stephanie Styles
Styles.
and one of my really good buddies, Andrew Kober, that I just went and hung out with, and his lovely wife in Jersey last night to see, of all things, a comedy show, which was
Mm.
really bizarre. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
But Georgia Engel and did I already say Sarah Chase? Like that and Michael Moharan, like we just were so lucky to have a killer group of people. And like Jared and I had met doing Jersey Boys in San Francisco exactly 10 years earlier. So it
Great.
was kind of like and then we got a house together. We lived together in the Castro for the entire time we
Oh,
were working on
awesome.
the show. Yeah, no, it was great. And
Yeah.
so the best part about that was it didn't feel like work. We were
Mm.
out of town in San Francisco making a new thing, but we were doing it as friends and colleagues and coworkers just as much as we were doing it as like, all right, we're in the trenches making this new show. And now, like, even though like Roman Holiday didn't go to Broadway right away, it's currently like making the rounds. They've done it in
Mm.
Japan.
Oh, wow.
They're on track to do it on the West End, where I think it actually will be really, really, really successful. Uh, so it's such a bizarre thing that even though a show like that doesn't translate to an immediate Broadway show,
Mhm.
because the time isn't right, or because it just is not really in line with the kind of time that they wanted to have a longer run, and they were offered a theater that it just didn't work out. It was like so many things have to go exactly right in order to make
Mhm.
that kind of thing happen, that people would think, oh no, it wasn't a success. But no, it's lived on forever, and like that big beautiful set is
Oh,
showing
gorgeous.
itself all over the world now. So it's neat to have been a part of like it getting its sea legs and kind of finding what its audience was going to be.
That's awesome. Yeah. So all these projects that you've been involved with are making their way across the globe. It's really
Yeah,
dominating.
very much so.
And so we have a question from Emily Petal, and Emily asks, "What was your first musical that you were in?"
It depends. I was in
Mm.
Oliver, because people used to do Oliver all the time.
Right.
For those of you younger folk out there, Oliver was
Yep.
it,
Yep. I've
because
been
you
in
could
it.
like,
Yep.
oh yeah, because you would pack the chorus with all the kids, like, it was just, there's tons of kids in it, so it was great for
Mhm.
like communities and stuff. So in third grade, I was in Oliver, and great music, guys. As long as he needs me. I
Mhm.
mean, questionable morals, but you know.
Right.
Um, and so that was my first actual musical. We had to bring our own wooden bowls because I had to sing about gruel in the
Oh.
beginning, but then my actual first like musical that I did would have been, I think, The Velveteen Rabbit when I was in
Mm.
fourth grade. I was the little boy with scarlet fever in The
Oh.
Velveteen Rabbit. It was my great star turn. Great
That's
star
perfect.
turn.
And so,
Followed shortly by Merrily We Roll Along, which is
oh,
a pretty deep cut to do as a
yeah.
musical, but you know,
So
it's
you,
what you did when you were a kid.
so you grew up in North Carolina,
I did.
and so yeah. So how did you discover musical theater? Did you have like a did your family like support musical theater? How did you discover it at a young age, like elementary school?
First of all, you're welcome, Emily. Thank you for the question. Second of all, my parents, once they realized that I was into something, they
Mm-hmm.
were like, well, let's get tickets to the touring shows. Let's find out about they got me into youth theater, not necessarily because I was interested in it, but because I was such a ham that they were like, "Oh, we gotta get this kid.
Gotta
We
do
gotta get this
something.
kid. Yeah, sports aren't cutting it. We gotta get him, make him like, deal with this attention problem." So, so they, put me in kind of youth theater, and I fell in love with it, and just honestly, it was just something that was a lot of fun to do. So even all the way through kind of like middle school and high school, doing shows with at my local youth theater was like my extracurricular activity. It's like how I found my
Mm-hmm.
tribe. It's how I found my people, and it's how I kind of discovered what made me me. It's the most important thing about what theater can bring to an education. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it gives confidence because everyone has a job, everyone
Yeah.
has a purpose, everyone, no matter what you do, and part of making the show happen, it is equally valuable and important. And that kind of egalitarian approach to making something was something that you didn't really see much of anywhere else. There's like the star player on all the teams, or there's like the best student. And in theater, it didn't matter. None of that stuff
Right.
mattered. It just mattered if you were committed to the project and to each other, because everyone counts on each other to make the thing happen. Um, so it was always just something fun to do. Now, I never really kind of realized that that could be a job
Mm-hmm.
until I was in high school and I went and saw my first Broadway show, which was, of course, Rent. And
Right.
uh, and uh, and like then sitting at the Nederlander Theater and like kind of watching this thing play out on stage, going like, oh wait, this is like a real thing. This is a job. This is a job. And it kind of made it feel real. So that's kind of that's where it started, and kind of from there I kind of went to pursued like a college training program, and then from there I moved to New York, and then kind of the rest is boring, but you know, and I feel like that's so many people start, right, to kind of just say, all right, I love doing the thing, and to have a supportive family that would come to, you know, the terrible children's theater shows that I was in, and say, great job, you know, you do you. But that was very lucky.
Oh, that's great. We have a question from Sophia Hans in the chat. Says, what's your gender bent dream role?
I know. I got to be honest. Part of the reason I was rambling just then was I saw that question and I was really like trying to think about it. So like, oh God,
it's a great question.
Who would I be? I'd probably want to be like the mayor part in Anyone Can Whistle, or something like random like that. Could really like if you go like full gender bend, I'd want to be like Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd, or like, oh, this is a good question, because it's like, do you pick a song? Do you pick a character that you just want to like sing the song? Because like, who doesn't want to be Eponine? Everybody wants to be Eponine. Actually, I'd rather be Fantine, because then you can sing like the first song and then, you know, peace out and
then just chill backstage. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Or like Eliza Hamilton. Can I say that? I don't know.
That's great.
Any of the Schuyler sisters. You know what? That's it. My gender bent dream role is any of the Schuyler sisters. What's a role that I wish that I could play that probably never will? Oh, it would probably be Tony in West Side Story. Because here's the thing, I'm kind of too old for it now. You know what I mean? It's like, you have a window of time that you can be like that you can be like the young
like
kid,
a fresh face.
Hey, why not? You know what I mean? And then you just kind of start to get a couple of gray hairs and the sideburns, and everyone's a critic, and I can't play Tony anymore, you know? So that's a dream role. I wish I could play it. I probably never will. I'll just settle with singing the songs in concert when they're appropriate. How about that?
There we go. That's great. I know we talked about Jersey Boys earlier, and so you were here in San Francisco in 2007 playing Bob Gaudio with Jared Spector. And so, do you have any fond memories of being here in San Francisco? I know that you performed at the Emmy Awards.
Yeah. I mean, but honestly, all the stuff you can Google is fine. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff is nuts. It was really great. And thank you, by the way. No one sees gray in the back. Is this an argument for me to play Tony? If so, you're hired. I will give you 10%. Hi, Catherine Gallagher. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony nominee Catherine Gallagher is on this feed right now.
Congratulations.
The best thing the fondest stuff that I look back on from that show was the clams that I would hit on stage. The full-blown clams. There was about a month, for reasons that I can't quite understand, other than that I was like 23 and like probably just punching way above my weight at the time. But I had to sing Oh What a Night every night. But for some reason, and I'm just going to put this out there now, because, you know, I feel like if I talk about it, you know, it'll like unjinx it if I talk about it. I essentially would go through the entire beginning part of the song and have to run to the top of the stairs and go, oh, what a night, late December, back in 63. You all know the song, right? So what dangerously would start to happen, though, was one time I ran to the top of the stairs, and you get like a little bit winded because you're running up steps, and, you know, you've been running all over the stage, like changing costumes, and, you know, stakes are high. So I go, oh, what a night, late December, back in 63, and hit the clam of my life. And here's the thing. Jared's right off stage. Jeremy Kushner, right off stage. My best friend, Rashad Naylor, right off stage. All about to come on for their next entrance. And they're all just standing back there. And Jeremy Kushner, who's in like like a little like white t-shirt, has like a cigarette in his hand, and I will never forget, I kind of look backstage and I just catch his eye as he looks up at me and goes, like, just so much shade. So then it just kind of continued, and I proceeded to do that almost every night for like a month. And there's no explanation for it. It just happens sometimes. I stand by that. Now that it's out there, I feel so much better. I'm free. I'm free. It's out in the world.
You're free. Well, thank you. Thank you for unburdening yourself here.
Yeah, I needed to, clearly.
So when you say clams, so these are like actual clams that you are eating on?
No.
Sorry,
No, it's okay. When you hit a clam as a singer, you hit a wrong note.
Gotcha.
It's a wrong note.
Okay.
Terrible note. So now every time you see or hit one yourself, you'll go up, a couple of clams in there.
There we go.
Dumb dad jokes for days, guys.
Well, thank you. And I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about, or touch a little bit upon your Waitress experience.
Yeah.
And actually, just 3 years ago today, it started performances at the Golden Gate Theater. The tour did. So it's its special anniversary today. And so, what did being a part of Waitress mean to you?
It was like super special. It was one of those rare experiences where you are a part of something that is a phenomenon, and we had the unique experience of recognizing that as it was happening, right? And that was really cool to kind of start to go into previews, the first week of previews at the Brooks Atkinson in New York, and go, oh my God, we're sold out. And you could and my dressing room was on the street side, so you could open the window and you could look outside and see a line around the block, and you're like, my God, that's to see this. That's so weird, because so often you're in a show, you don't know, it's not your job to sell tickets, it's not your job to run the box office or to kind of take care of business stuff. It's your job to do the show and do the best work that you can, and then to have that coincide with something that people were so excited to see, and then to not disappoint them when they did see it, was such a good feeling to have, and one to that we kind of all shared a great feeling of pride in, because we felt like we made that happen and we were a part of creating it. That was special. They're not always like that, and so it's nice to you really kind of try to keep those things here and here for as long as you can, because they're life-changing in the little moments that they give you.
Yeah, and I can say as an audience member, you could feel how special this project was, and it really resonated so much with audiences. I think I've seen it 3 or 4 times. It's just such a beautiful, special. Special show.
And Sarah's score is just,
it's gorgeous,
magic, man. And you're really hard pressed to find a cast album. I'm really hard pressed to find a cast album that I can listen to over and over and over again. And I mean, I was freaking in it. So I think honestly that says something to how wonderful our producer Neil Averon was, and what a great job Sarah and the band did of orchestrating it. And we got so lucky, Yeah,
and I was wondering, do you have any stories to share about Nick Cordero, who played Earl, who sadly passed away due to complications of COVID-19, but he was such a light and such a great presence on stage and off. I was wondering if you had any fond memories. I'm sure you.
Yeah, I have. There's so many. That man was just always the person you wanted in the room. You all, like, having Nick around made everybody better at what they did. He was simultaneously a total goofball, but also somebody that, like, deeply cared about the quality of the work that he did and that he was a part of. To the point of, like, when we did his concert at 54 Below, we all just had a freaking crazy time and just laughed so much. But between shows, he definitely pulled me and Braff aside and was like, I have notes. I want you to do this. And it's just like, and that perfectly, like, encapsulated him. Just somebody that was so easygoing and so much fun to be around, but also somebody that cared a lot about what we do. And I miss him. And you know, so many people lost people and are continuing to, and it's that aspect of 2020 honestly is just senseless. I think we can all agree, but luckily the memories that we have of him and the recordings that we have of him are spectacular and do such a great job of capturing the essence of what he was able to do, and just could just show up and do that, you know?
Yeah.
That's a rare thing. And I count myself one of the lucky ones, because I got to call him a friend.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that. And yeah, we actually have another question here from a fan who's tuning in. Let me see if I can pull up. This is from Ray Athena. This is any advice on actors who have audition anxiety, especially when just come to the singing part of the audition? Yeah, do you have any just advice for people watching and tuning in?
Yeah, honestly, auditioning sucks. It sucks. There's no world where auditioning doesn't suck. It always will suck. It just starts to suck less. And I tell you, for me, what made it start to suck less was I started to kind of take charge of the experience and the day. I would be like, "Hey, Hunter." I would be like, I'd say I would bring my own accompanist. My buddy Jordan Dean would play guitar for me. If it was like bring your own song, I'd be like, I will bring my own song. I will also bring my own instrument. And so then that part of the audition is more of a performance than it is like, hey, pick me, pick me, pick me. So, and then genuinely, that was great, because then Jordan would be like, okay, bye. And he would go outside and chill in the hallway. I would do the part of the audition that I had to do. And then we would like go get a beer or something. And it never felt like, oh God, everything was riding on this moment, because frankly, doing the singing part of it was just something that I was used to doing all the time. You know, it's a song that I always sing. If it's a song that you have to learn for like a musical that's like already has the sides and stuff, then coach it. Like, give somebody $50, sit down, learn the song, practice it, sing it with someone playing it live for you. And often, like, if you want to bring that person with you to the audition, you can. If it makes you feel better, rather do it. If you don't, that's totally okay too. But you will have practiced it enough to not feel like you're not prepared. You know, just be prepared. And preparing yourself can be practicing it a bajillion times, or just kind of being familiar with the room that it is, having a good breakfast. Just figure out what that means for you, and set yourself up to have a good day, you know? Because at the end of the day, That's a total of 3 minutes.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's
that's
like
great advice.
180 seconds of your day. And I know it can seem like it's a huge deal, but that's 3 minutes, and then it's over. And then, like,
Yeah.
honestly, it's like, in the grand scheme of things, like, it's probably more important that you're good at acting, you know?
Mhm.
So anyway.
No, that's really great. Like auditions suck, so just find ways to make you feel most comfortable doing them and feeling that you can do it and then
Yeah.
just yeah.
Let's just leave it at auditions suck. They always will. What are you doing afterwards? Or
There you go. Yeah.
practice before. Yeah.
Oh, well, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today and happy birthday and thank you for taking time out of your birthday
Oh
to
no,
talk to
thank
us.
you.
Sure.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and thanks guys for all your awesome questions. I love me some San Francisco. Thanks so much for setting this up, and I'm really glad that we got to chat. I wish you guys all the best.
Right. And enjoy flying that plane.
Yes, thank you. Vote, everybody, vote.
Yes. Yes, the last day to register in California is October 19th. So
Vote,
vote.
please. Yes. Okay.
Great. Well, thank you
All
so
right.
much, Cyril.
Bye,
Have a
guys.
great
See
day.
you
Happy
later.
birthday.
Thank you.
Thanks.